The church was silent except for the echo of my heels on the marble floor. My father's coffin lay only a few feet away, yet all I could feel was the cold stare of my stepmother, Vanessa, burning into me. People whispered about the sudden death of a man they thought they knew, but none of them knew the secret tucked inside my purse. My father had left me $25 million money that Vanessa believed was hers to command. I didn't tell her. I couldn't. Not at that funeral. Not when her smile looked more like victory than grief. I thought keeping quiet would protect me, give me time to breathe. But 1 week later, Vanessa revealed something about her past that nearly ripped the ground from under my feet. That day, I realized silence was no longer enough. I had a weapon, and she had a secret darker than I could imagine. The week after the funeral felt like a blur of condolences I didn't want and empty stares I couldn't bear. Everyone praised Vanessa for her strength, but I saw the truth behind her carefully painted smile. It wasn't grief, it was possession. She moved through our home like a queen who had finally seized her throne. I stood at the top of the staircase one evening, watching as she directed the staff to remove my father's favorite armchair from the living room. "That was his chair," I said, my voice trembling but firm. Vanessa didn't even flinch. She turned, her diamond earrings catching the chandelier light. "Scarlett, it's just furniture. Don't be so dramatic." "It's not just furniture. It's where he sat every night to read," she smirked. "Well, he won't be needing it anymore. And frankly, neither will you." Her words hit harder than a slap. I clutched the banister, fighting the urge to scream. I wanted to tell her about the 25 million, about how my father had trusted me, not her. But I bit down on the secret, letting it simmer inside me like a silent promise. Later that night, I sat in my room staring at an old photograph of me and Dad at a county fair, cotton candy in our hands, his arm around my shoulders. He had always told me, "Scarlett, never let anyone make you feel small. You have my fire." That fire was still there, even if buried under grief. The next morning, Vanessa summoned me to her study. The room smelled of her heavy perfume, replacing the faint scent of Dad's cologne that used to linger here. She gestured for me to sit. "I've spoken with the lawyers," she began smoothly, folding her manicured hands. "Everything your father had, this house, the cars, the company shares, belongs to me now. To us." "Us?" I repeated, my chest tightening. "Yes, Scarlett. Me and my children. You're young, and I think it's best if you start finding your own way. Away from here." "You want me gone?" She tilted her head as if pitying me. "I want you to grow, but clinging to this place will only hold you back. I'll give you a week to pack." I stared at her, my blood boiling. "This is my father's house. You can redecorate, erase the memories, but you'll never erase me." Her smile widened, cruel and condescending. "We'll see about that." When I left the study, my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the photograph I carried with me. Every corner of the house felt like it was suffocating me, but I refused to let her see me break. What Vanessa didn't know was that I carried a truth more powerful than any deed or will. My father's legacy wasn't hers to steal. He had placed it directly in my hands, 25 million reasons to fight back. And though I didn't yet know how, I swore to myself that I would. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in my childhood bed, staring at the ceiling as memories came rushing back. It was easier to close my eyes and drift into the past than face the cold silence of Vanessa's reign. When I was little, my father was everything to me. He'd come home after long days at the office, loosen his tie, and scoop me into his arms as if I were the only thing that mattered in the world. "Scarlett," he'd whisper, "you're my star. You'll always shine brighter than the rest." Those words made me believe I could do anything. Back then, our home radiated warmth, fresh cookies from the kitchen, my father's laughter echoing through the hallways, the smell of wood smoke during winter. My mother had already passed away, but Dad tried to fill both roles, and he did, until Vanessa entered the picture. I still remember the first dinner she attended with us. She wore a red dress that clung to her like armor, and her smile seemed too wide, too rehearsed. I was 13, old enough to notice the way she leaned too close to my father, how her eyes flicked over me with thinly veiled annoyance. After that night, everything changed. The family dinners we once shared grew fewer. Dad spent more time entertaining Vanessa, less time reading bedtime stories to me. At first, I tried to like her. I offered her one of my mother's old recipe cards when she moved in. She took it, glanced at the handwriting, then tossed it on the counter like it was trash. "This isn't my style," she said, her voice casual. I never forgot that moment. It felt like she had thrown away my mother all over again. Years passed, and Vanessa dug her claws deeper into every corner of our lives. She redecorated the house, stripping it of everything familiar. The floral curtains my mother had sewn? Gone. The antique piano my father once played? Sold. Each item she removed felt like a piece of my childhood being erased. Dad changed too. He smiled less at me and more at her. I told myself he was just trying to move on, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was slipping away from me. Still, he found small ways to remind me of his love. Once, before a big exam, he left a note on my desk. "Proud of you always. Show them what you're made of." That note is still tucked inside my journal. Now, lying in this hollowed-out house, I clung to those scraps of memory. They were proof that once, before Vanessa, I mattered more than anything. I turned on my side, clutching the photograph of Dad and me at the fair. My throat tightened. "You knew she'd try to erase me, didn't you?" I whispered into the darkness. Maybe that's why he left me the 25 million. Not just for survival, but as a shield, his last act of protection against the woman who had spent years pushing me out. And yet, I still hadn't revealed it. Not to Vanessa, not to anyone. It was my secret, my weapon. I didn't know when I would use it, but the storm was coming. I could feel it. By the third day after the funeral, the house no longer felt like mine. Vanessa strutted through the halls as if she had built them herself, her heels clicking on the polished floor like a drumbeat of conquest. She had already redecorated the living room, my father's photos, replaced by abstract art that meant nothing to any of us. I found her one afternoon in the study, rifling through my father's desk drawers. "What are you doing?" I demanded, stepping into the room. She looked up, unfazed. "Looking for documents. This house is mine now, Scarlett. I need to know what's in every drawer." "You mean our house?" "My father's house." Vanessa's lips curved into a sharp smile. "Correction, was your father's house. He's gone. And so is your claim to it." My fists clenched at my sides. I wanted to shout that I still had my father's true gift, that his trust in me was written in $25 million. But the time wasn't right. Instead, I glared back at her. "You can strip the walls, Vanessa, but you'll never strip his memory from me." Her eyes glinted with mockery. "Memories don't pay bills. Memories don't keep the lights on. You'll learn that soon enough when you're on your own." The venom in her tone sliced through me. She wanted me gone. No, she wanted me destroyed. That evening at dinner, she made it official. She set down her glass of wine and said casually, "Scarlett, I think it's time you considered moving out." The fork froze halfway to my mouth. "Excuse me? You heard me. You're an adult now. It's inappropriate for you to linger here. My children need stability, not a bitter reminder of the past." I slammed my fork onto the plate, the sound echoing like thunder. "A bitter reminder?" "That reminder is his daughter, his blood." Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "And yet, he left everything to me." "What does that tell you?" Heat rushed to my face. I could barely keep the secret inside me. I wanted to spit it out to tell her she was wrong, that my father had entrusted me with more than she could imagine. But I swallowed the words. Let her think she'd won. For now. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping harshly against the marble floor. "You don't scare me, Vanessa. Kick me out if you want. But one day, you'll regret underestimating me." Her laugh followed me as I stormed upstairs, sharp and hollow. "Scarlett, darling, you're nothing without him. And soon, you'll have nothing at all." In my room, I shut the door and pressed my forehead against the wood. Her words stung, but beneath the pain, I felt the ember of something stronger resolve. Let her think she had buried me. She had no idea what I was holding in my hands. And when the time came, I would use it. The house had grown colder with each passing day, as though Vanessa's presence drained the warmth from its walls. I moved through the halls like a ghost, silent, watchful. Every time her phone rang, She slinked off to a quiet corner, lowering her voice until it was nothing but a murmur behind closed doors. One evening, unable to sleep, I padded down the staircase in bare feet. The grandfather clock chimed midnight. That's when I heard it, her voice, sharp and urgent, drifting from the study. I froze in the shadows by the doorway. "No one can find out," she hissed into the phone. "If it surfaces now, everything will fall apart. Do you understand? I've buried that part of my life for years." My pulse spiked. I held my breath, straining to catch every word. A man's voice answered faintly, muffled by distance. I couldn't make out much, but I heard enough. "They'll connect it to the fire. Police. You promised this was finished." Vanessa's tone turned icy. "It is finished. As long as Scarlett stays quiet. She doesn't know anything, she's just a naive little girl clinging to memories. I can handle her." The words hit me like a blow to the chest. My knees weakened, and I gripped the banister to steady myself. The fire? Police? My mind flashed back to the night years ago when I lost my mother in a blaze that consumed half our home. Was she? No. I couldn't even complete the thought. Vanessa's laughter sliced through the silence. "Relax. My husband never suspected a thing. And now that he's gone, there's nothing left to tie me to it. Scarlett has no proof." I staggered back, my breath ragged, heart thundering in my chest. Proof of what? That she had been involved? That she knew more about that night than she ever admitted? Her footsteps scraped against the hardwood floor. I darted up the stairs, heart pounding, slipping back into my room just as she emerged from the study. I pressed my ear to the door, listening as her heels clicked away down the hallway. Alone in the dark, I wrapped my arms around myself, shivering. My father's death, the will, the fortune I'd hidden, it all seemed tangled in something darker than greed. Vanessa wasn't just cruel, she was hiding a past capable of burning us all. I pulled open the drawer of my nightstand and took out my father's watch. His initials were engraved on the back, the one thing of his I'd kept close every day since the funeral. Holding it in my hand, I whispered, "Dad, what did she do? What did she hide from us?" The silence gave me no answer. Only the echo of her words haunted me. She doesn't know anything. She's just a naive little girl. I clenched the watch until the edges dug into my palm. If Vanessa thought I was naive, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. The next morning, the house felt suffocating. Every creak of the floorboards, every glint of sunlight through the curtains seemed to mock me. I couldn't erase the words I'd overheard. The fire, police, buried past. I found Vanessa in the dining room, swirling a glass of orange juice as if she had slept peacefully all night. I, on the other hand, hadn't closed my eyes once. "Vanessa," I said sharply, stepping into the room. She glanced up lazily. "Scarlett, you look dreadful. Bad dreams?" My fists clenched at my sides. "You were on the phone last night, talking about the fire, about the police." The glass froze halfway to her lips. A flicker barely noticeable crossed her face before she plastered on that perfect smile again. "You must have been half asleep. You've always had a vivid imagination." "I wasn't imagining it," I snapped. "I heard every word. You said you buried that part of your life. What were you talking about? Did you have something to do with the fire that killed my mother?" Her smile faltered this time. "Careful, Scarlett. Grief can twist memories into monsters. You wouldn't want to accuse me of something you can't prove." The warning in her tone made my skin crawl, but I refused to back down. "Then explain it. Tell me why you sounded terrified last night. Tell me why you mentioned the police." She set her glass down with deliberate slowness, the clink against the table sharp as a blade. "Your mother's death was a tragedy, but dredging it up now won't bring her back. It will only make you look unstable. And if you keep pressing, people might start to wonder if you had something to do with that fire. After all, you were there." Her words were poison. I felt my chest tighten, my breath catch. "How dare you?" I whispered, trembling with fury. "I was a child. I lost everything that night." Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes gleaming like polished steel. "And now you're about to lose everything again. Unless you learn to keep quiet." The air between us pulsed with hatred. I wanted to scream, to lunge across the table, but I forced myself to stay still. My father's voice echoed in my mind. "Never let anyone make you feel small. I straightened my shoulders. You think you can erase me? You think you can scare me into silence? You're wrong. Her laugh was low, mocking. What power do you think you have, Scarlett? You're penniless, homeless. I own this house, this life, everything your father built. You're just a bitter girl clinging to ashes. Ashes. The word tore through me like the fire itself. For a moment, I almost told her the truth that I wasn't penniless, that my father had trusted me with $25 million, but I swallowed the words. Revealing my weapon now would be foolish. Instead, I leaned in close, my voice steady. One day, Vanessa, you'll regret every lie you've told and every life you've destroyed. And when that day comes, I'll be the one standing. Her smile thinned into a line of contempt. Big words for someone with nothing. I rose from my chair, heart pounding, but my voice rang with defiance. I have more than you'll ever know. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in her eyes. She didn't know what I meant, but she felt the weight of it. I turned and walked out before she could respond. My legs trembled, but my steps were steady. In my room, I shut the door and let the tears fall silently. I hated her, but more than that, I feared the truth she was hiding. If she had been involved in the fire, if my mother's death was more than an accident, then everything I thought I knew about my past had been a lie. I wiped my eyes and looked at the small wooden box on my desk, the one that held my father's watch and a letter I still hadn't found the courage to read. He had left me more than money. He had left me a chance to fight. And now, I knew I had to. I didn't leave my room for hours after the confrontation. Vanessa's words clung to me like smoke, impossible to shake off. Unless you keep quiet. That wasn't a warning, it was a threat. And threats only made me more determined. By evening, I sat at my desk with my father's watch in one hand and my phone in the other. I searched through old news archives, typing in the year of the fire, the name of our town, anything that could give me answers. Most articles said the same thing: accidental blaze, faulty wiring, tragic loss. But buried deep in the archives, I found a short piece with a single disturbing line. Authorities received an anonymous tip suggesting the fire may not have been an accident. End of. My blood ran cold. Why had no one told me? Why had my father never spoken of it? The next day, when Vanessa left to meet with her bridge club, which I suspected was a lie, I slipped into her study. The air smelled faintly of her perfume, sharp and cloying. My hands shook as I opened the desk drawers. Receipts, old letters, stacks of envelopes, and then, tucked in the back, a manila folder. Inside were documents in my father's handwriting but stamped with Vanessa's signature. Loan agreements, property deeds, transfers of money that had nothing to do with Miller Enterprises. My stomach twisted as I read. She'd been funneling money long before my father died. Looking for something? Her voice slashed through the silence. I jumped, clutching the folder to my chest. She stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by the hallway light. I forced myself to meet her gaze. These papers don't belong to you. She stepped into the room, her smile tight. Neither does this house belong to you. Put them back. No, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. You stole from him. You lied to him. Did you think no one would find out? Her heels clicked against the floor as she crossed to me. She leaned in close, her perfume suffocating. Be careful, Scarlett. People who dig too deep often get buried with what they find. I clutched the folder tighter. Is that what happened to my mother? Her face froze. Just for a second, but enough. That tiny flicker of panic confirmed what I had suspected all along. I shoved past her and ran upstairs, heart hammering. In my room, I locked the door and spread the documents across my bed. They were proof maybe not enough for the police yet, but enough to know my instincts were right. That night, I pulled out my father's letter again. The red wax seal was unbroken, my hands trembling as I held it. He had left me this for a reason, and maybe it was time to face it. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop and began writing everything down. The overheard phone call, the documents, her reaction when I mentioned my mother. I wasn't going to let Vanessa erase me, or him. Days passed, and I began to watch her more closely. I noticed the way she slipped out late at night, the hushed conversations with a man who wasn't a family friend. I snapped photos with my phone, recorded snippets of audio when I could. Each piece was another brick in the wall I was building against her. But she noticed me too. One evening, as I headed to my room, she called after me. "You've been awfully curious lately," she said, her smile too wide. "Just remember, curiosity killed the cat." I turned slowly, meeting her gaze. And sometimes curiosity uncovers the truth. Her smile faltered, but she didn't answer. She simply walked away, her heels echoing down the hall. In that moment, I knew. The battle lines were drawn. She had her secrets. I had my father's trust and the means to fight. And soon, Vanessa would learn that the girl she dismissed as naive was far more dangerous than she ever imagined. The night I decided to strike back, the sky was swollen with thunderclouds. It felt like even the heavens were holding their breath, waiting for the storm inside my house to break. I had everything I needed. Copies of Vanessa's forged documents, recordings of her late-night conversations, and most damning of all, the anonymous article about the fire. I invited her to dinner in the main hall, insisting her children be present. She raised an eyebrow when I suggested it, but agreed, perhaps too confident in her control. The dining table stretched long and cold, lit by the flicker of candles. Vanessa sat at the head, swirling a glass of red wine. Her children, Daniel and Elise, sat at her side, unaware of the war about to erupt. I sat opposite her, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Scarlett," she purred, "how thoughtful of you to organize this little gathering. Are you finally ready to apologize for your behavior?" I slid a thick envelope across the table. "No, I'm ready for the truth." She blinked, her smile stiffening. "And what truth would that be?" "Your lies." My voice trembled at first, but then it steadied. "The money you funneled through fake contracts, the documents you forged with my father's name, the late-night calls to a man you swore you didn't know, and—" I took a deep breath, meeting her eyes. "Your connection to the fire that killed my mother." The room froze. Elise dropped her fork with a sharp clatter. Daniel's eyes widened. Vanessa's laugh rang out, shrill and brittle. "This is absurd. You're grasping at ghosts." I pressed a button on my phone. Her voice, recorded in the study, filled the air. "No one can find out. If it surfaces now, everything will fall apart. I've buried that part of my life for years." Daniel gasped. Elise covered her mouth. Vanessa's face drained of color. "You little snake," she spat. I leaned forward, slamming the folder onto the table. Pages spilled out loan agreements, property deeds, evidence of her betrayal. "You thought you buried your past, but the truth always digs itself free. My father may have been blind to you, but I am not." Her children stared at her, confusion etched across their faces. "Mom, what is she talking about?" Elise whispered. Vanessa reached for her daughter's hand, her voice trembling now. "Don't listen to her. She's twisting everything." I cut her off. "Twisting? These are your signatures, Vanessa. This is your voice. And this is your guilt." I held up the article about the fire, my hands shaking but my voice sharp. "The police suspected it wasn't an accident. Did you plan it? Did you help set the blaze that stole my mother's life?" Her mask cracked. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "Answer me!" I shouted, my voice ricocheting off the walls. "Finally," she whispered. "You don't understand." "Then explain it." I slammed my fists onto the table, the candles flickering violently. "Explain how you wormed your way into our lives, stole my father's love, and destroyed everything we had." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the storm outside seemed to pause. Then Vanessa snapped. She shot up from her chair, her face twisted with rage. "Fine. Yes, I did what I had to do. Your father was blind. Your mother stood in my way, and I was never going to live in her shadow." Gasps rippled around the table. Daniel stumbled back, horrified. Elise burst into tears. I stood, my hands trembling but my voice steady. "You finally said it, and now everyone knows who you really are." Vanessa's breath came in ragged bursts, her control shattered. "You'll regret this, Scarlett. You think you've won, but you don't know the whole story." "I know enough," I cut in coldly. "And unlike you, I have something you can't destroy. My father's trust, his legacy, and his truth. The thunder outside roared, rattling the windows, as if sealing the moment. Vanessa's empire of lies had crumbled in front of her children, in front of me, in front of the ghosts she thought she'd silenced. And I knew this was only the beginning of her downfall. The storm outside eventually passed, but the one inside our home left scars that would never heal. Vanessa no longer held her mask of control. Her children recoiled from her, their faces etched with betrayal. For once, she stood exposed, her lies unraveling in front of everyone she thought she commanded. I didn't wait for her excuses. I gathered my things that night, my suitcase rolling heavily over the marble floor. As I reached the door, I looked back one last time at the mansion, the place that had been both my paradise and my prison. This was my father's house, I whispered, more to myself than to her. And you'll never own his memory. The cold air outside felt like freedom. I drove away, carrying not just the folder of evidence but also the quiet strength my father had left me in secret. $25 million, a gift no one could touch. In the weeks that followed, Vanessa's empire collapsed. Word spread, investigations opened, and her reputation disintegrated faster than she could salvage it. Meanwhile, I rented a modest apartment and sat at my kitchen table with my father's watch in one hand and his letter in the other. "Scarlett, my star," it read. "If you're reading this, I couldn't protect you the way I wanted, but I left you the means to rise above it all. Live not in anger, but in strength." Tears blurred my vision, but for the first time in years, they weren't only of pain, they were of release. I used part of the money to establish a foundation in my mother's name, supporting families who had lost loved ones in fires. I funded scholarships for children with scars visible or invisible who needed a chance at a future. With each step, I felt closer to honoring the family I had lost. One quiet morning, I stood at my father's grave, a bouquet of white lilies in my hands. "I did it, Dad," I said softly. "She's gone. Her lies are gone. And your name, it means something again." The wind rustled through the trees as if carrying his approval. I closed my eyes, breathing in the peace I thought I'd never find. For the first time, the weight on my chest lifted. I wasn't just a survivor anymore. I was the heir to his truth. And I would carry it proudly, always.